to say this real quick. Soltanovich. I'm
I
worried.
think so.
I'm worried that I'm going to say it wrong.
I'm worried all the time. Aren't we all just guessing? Like someone told us how to say our last name.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're just guessing from what the previous generation guessed at.
Blurted into.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
someone, 500 years ago that has your last name is like, that is not how you pronounce it.
I know.
Well, plus, I'm shocked.
Kightlinger.
Yeah, exactly.
We have this whole podcast is about us becoming friends with each other over the podcast.
I love it.
But one of my tricks of the trade, Laura, as long as we're talking about industry, is as like a host of like a live show and shit, where it doesn't matter if I say now it's Kightlinger, right? I'll forget or fuck it up. So by the time I'm on stage, you just have to do it like Oprah. So you're like, Laura, Kightlinger, and then you just kind of into
blur it.
any kind of indiscernible pronunciation. So that's what I do. So like today would just be curious.
I have had that. I had someone take out all the vowels of my last name. I have no idea why, and they just were like Soltanovich, like they just. and then he was mad at me.
Oh my God.
I go, look, dude, I'm not gonna get offended.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get offended.
It's such a beautiful last name, but we should introduce you.
Oh yeah, we did.
Brilliantly funny, beautiful, and hilarious, extremely hilarious. We've both been lucky enough to work with her on several stand-up shows. Kira Soltanovich.
But we did record.
That's Russian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Very Soviet.
Beautiful.
I'm perpetually reading this book called The Romanovs. I've read a lot about them, but this one it's like the 200-year history of the dynasty or whatever.
Holy cow.
And it's epic. These people are fucking insane.
Absolutely insane.
And then I have a book of Russian fairy tales that it's almost every fairy tale you've ever read or heard, but the Russian version is violent.
Listen, I want to draw a picture for you right now. My friends that I grew up with in San Francisco, California. By the way, you talked about Margaret. She and I went to the same high school.
Amazing.
School of the Arts. Okay,
Yes.
different years. Anyways, I always wanted to say that. I love you, Margaret. But I grew up in San Francisco. I had this street of kids. They were all like very Americana, and I just wanted to be like them. And I begged my parents to read me some sort of, night book. You know what I mean? I'm 7 years old. All my friends at night, they would get tucked in and their parents would read them some cute little, I think I can story about, perseverance. And finally, I wore them down. And my mom was like, okay, I read you Russian, good night, go to sleep book. Everybody dies.
They die.
Everybody dies. There's a family of goats.
Oh no.
This is 100% true. Every Russian fairy tale it's always some goat that leaves the house and leaves her kids, literally. And
or a baby, a real life baby has been replaced with a goat.
And a wolf comes along.
Oh, man.
Every story. And I regretted it so much. I was like, you know what, Mom? I'm good. I told her one night, I go, I'm good. Because it wasn't like, now, good night, sweet dreams. It was like, so you listen to me. Or you're like baby goat. And you die.
Now she has an example to point to of what.
Oh.
But
It's awful.
Everybody dies, but they also tell you a gory, detailed version of how they died.
Yeah.
Like there's one where it's like the prince and the princess in this story, the prince is stolen and replaced with a cat.
Oh no.
And the cat has a moon on its back and a sun on its chest, which proves it's magic.
Wow.
And then so at the end of it, whatever, everybody's replaced. The prince and the princess live happily ever after. And literally the last paragraph goes, and as for the witch, who is drawn in court, she's dragged by a horse.
Oh.
And they're like, where the horse took a left, she lost her limb. And when the horse rounded a tree, she lost her head. And it ends with that. Like there's, yeah, it's really beautiful.
My entire childhood you just described. My entire childhood.
I did a similar thing with I want to be read a bedtime story, but mine was, y'all don't spend enough time with me, which was bullshit anyway, but it was just an attention grab, but they manifested that into game night, which essentially I'm behind, but as a kid,
cute.
I didn't really want. So there we are putting puzzles together. I'm like, fuck, I did this to myself. Like, I want out, you know?
Puzzles doesn't feel like a game night. That feels like someone got the chicken pox. Like, doesn't it feel like a consequence? All right, sit in your room and do a puzzle.
Well, you're a mom.
Yes.
Did you read like bedtime, good night stories to your children?
I read to my 8-year-old still. She can read. She's a great reader, but she loves that, like, sit down. But that's the thing is that, you can't... Look, I make a joke about it on stage. I wore my kids a lot in the little baby carrier, like all the time. Whatever I was doing, if they were asleep or even if they were awake, I'm wearing them. They're on my chest, skin to skin. And my mom said to me, "You're going to ruin these kids because you say to them, I love you, I love you. And you always with them. You read books. And you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say
loose.
that your 8-year-old still breastfeeds, and then I'd have to check out of the room.
I mean, she doesn't, like, not on the boob.
Yeah,
I still pump for her. No, but now it's like you have to do it every night.
Pump?
No.
Oh.
The bedtime, like the whole nighttime
story.
Yeah,
tradition.
it's a ritual.
At this point, I'm like, can you just get yourself to bed? You know what I mean? Like, I got to get dressed. I'm going to the Laugh Factory. Mommy wants to make drunk people like her. And, and so my mom was a little bit right. Although I said to my mom, did you just hear yourself? You said I say I love you too much to my kids. And that you never did that. Can you hear why that's wrong?
Yeah. And what did she say?
She starts a voice like a wolf and tries to kill me.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
It's so, but you don't think, because like my mother, especially for Christmas, right? This year, it's like, I have a boyfriend and my sister has kids and it's all this different scheduling. And my mom's like, it doesn't matter if we're all here on the 25th. It's, Christmas, it can happen anytime. It's not the day. It's just being together.
That's
I'm
true.
like, yeah, but bitch, this is a new rule. I'm 41. Like that hasn't happened in the 40 plus decades. It was like, be there on the 25th. Why aren't you here?
That's very progressive. That's
They
I'm
changed.
impressed.
Yeah, but it took her to her 70s. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it took forever.
Wait till she gets to 80.
My aunt had 3 kids, and I used to stay with them. And my aunt never said "I love you" to any of the kids, and they're all fucked up. They're all really, And my mom had that. My aunt had the conversation with my mother that your mother had with you. She said, you always say "I love you" to Laura. She's going to be, too clingy.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like, I'm 5 and I'm staying with a bunch of animals at your house.
My mom and her siblings couldn't call my grandfather. They couldn't call him dad. They had to call him by his first name.
What? As per your grandfather's rule?
Yeah. They had to call him Tom.
Oh.
Isn't that strange? Yeah.
They didn't want to call him
Why?
dad.
They would call him Tom. What's that?
He didn't want to be called dad.
He did not want to be called dad. They
It's like
all
a
call him
business
Tom.
arrangement or something.
But it was all him. It wasn't like he was a stepdad or any kind of weird resistance to it other than he just hated
I
kids.
couldn't call my dad because he was somebody else's dad.
Yeah.
My dad was married to somebody else.
I do know that, and that is hilarious.
Wait, but Kira, the last time we talked, it was on your podcast, and you said your mom was kind of like, is she doing better? You said your mom was kind of in bad shape or something.
So, okay, she will not die.
I love you. You're like, with so many friends, I find myself saying, why did I ask that? I know that I shouldn't be asking how is someone because I know it's going to be bad. But with you make it fun.
She won't. I don't know what to do. She's obviously holding on to something in this realm. You know what I mean? In this dimension. She's been in hospice. I mean, when someone goes into hospice, usually it's like, look, this is where they are right now, and it's maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah. They say a month to be nice.
A month to be nice.
Yeah.
2 years she's in hospice.
Because like Jimmy Carter.
She's beating the system. That's great. She's really
is. She's milking her Medicaid.
Yeah.
The reason I can joke about it is because I really have said my goodbyes.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like I have. And I even said
But to her?
Yes.
To the right person?
This is going to sound so awful. Please, I hope whoever is listening is not judging this. I sent my grandmother off. I allowed her to die. My grandmother was 101.
Wow.
It's, you did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and she also strangely made us call her Tom. I don't know why.
Oh, wait a second.
It was very weird. It was very weird.
If you don't admit to being a parent, you can live longer. It sounds like.
She was 101. You win.
Yeah.
You win.
You made it.
So, but she's like in the hospital. My dad calls me. I'm driving up to San Francisco. He's like, I don't think she has much longer. I drive to San Francisco, and the nurses are all like looking at us. They give you that look. You know what I mean? And so we know my cousin cannot stand it that she's gonna die. It's like, so we're watching the beep. What's that machine?
God.
You know what I mean? We're watching it, and the heart starts to go slower, and the nurses are like preparing us. It was very sweet. They were like, "We just want to let you know if you want to hold her hand." You know, my cousin jumps into the bed. Babushka, no, Babushka, stay, stay. And her heart goes beep 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 beep. It comes back, and she kept bringing her back. She kept bringing her back. And then my dad's crying.
Oh my God.
And then, you know what I mean? It's like, and then my dad walks out to the hallway and he's calling cousins to tell them and he's crying. And my cousin goes downstairs to smoke a cigarette, which eventually ended up killing her too. Irony. And so she goes down to smoke a cigarette. And my dad's in the hallway and I hold my grandmother's hand. I go now.
Nobody's looking.
I go, they're not here.
Yeah, it's okay. Go.
They're not here.
Yeah.
And I watched the thing because the nurses told us what to look for.
Yeah.
And she's slowing down again.
Is it just a heart monitor? What is it called?
It's like there's all the oxygen.
It's called
there's all the
deathometer.
stuff. Deathometer. The deathometer.
The deathometer.
I like that, Daniel. I'm on that now.
It's clicking down. And it's like supermarket sweep. You know, it shows you your time you have left.
Oh, God.
And the door swings open because a nurse came in. And as the door swings open, I see the elevator. I have a perfect like eyeline view of the elevator. It opens. My cousin's coming back. She's talking to my dad. I see them coming back into the room. And I go.
No.
I start stressing my grandmother out to die. Quick, go. Yeah. And that happened like 3 times like that. And she finally, but I had to usher her out of this life.
But that was nice because I feel like, you're not doing them any favors because it's like, be released.
I gave her whole life back to her.
Yeah.
I was like, when you were born, you know, your mother had to go to the hospital on a horse and you lived through this war and this war and the Soviet Union. And I gave her whole life story back to her to kind of, you know.
Remind her that things are getting worse and worse and worse. Like, get out.
Listen, nothing's changed. You might as well just check out.
My grandmother stroked out and then was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, right? But like brain damage, the whole thing. So it was like she wasn't whatever. In a coma, whatever you call it. But was just there. And then eventually it was like, okay, we're gonna like this is it. So it was the same kind of thing where it was like there was a standoff. My aunt, who they fought all the time, right, was like insistent on being there, like slept over in the night and being there for the moment, right? So when everybody else had to go home, my fucking Aunt Nancy, who was also dead, would stay there. And it was finally after like 2 weeks, my mom was like, Nancy, you have to like leave. You have to go home. So she did, and my mom was on watch, and that's when my grandmother died. I was like, of course she did. She wasn't gonna go on let Nancy get the glory, like.
Well, that's why I told my mom, you can go. I gave her like a whole soliloquy.
Yeah.
I gave her like a whole monologue.
You're like, if this worked once, it'll work again.
Didn't work with this chick.
Is she near to where you live or like?
I moved her close to me.
Okay.
Yeah. She lived in 5 different places in a span of 2 years.
That's intense.
When she was cognitive.
Yeah.
Because she would show up to like a nursing home or whatever, and she'd be like, everyone here is trying to poison me. And I have to talk her out of it, and then I'd have to do this, and then I'd pack her up and fight because I have guilt.
Sure.
And I'd pack her up and move her somewhere else, and then that place they were all trying to kill her too. So you know, finally she's like declined so much, you know, she doesn't complain because she's just asleep with her eyes closed every day. Like she's just, there's no quality of life. And I feel like you like to let them go.
Yeah. And by the way, if anybody's terminally ill and kind of on the fence, Kira Soltanovich will be available to talk you into the next
She does
life.
house calls. She does a one-way house call.
God.
Well,
Oh,
So
That would be
you,
hilarious.
this is a random switch, but relevant, I swear. So I know you worked with Joan Rivers, and I want to ask you 100 million questions about that.
it.
So you worked. It was called
How'd You Get So Rich?
Yes, which I remember. I remember the show.
It was like
What?
on True TV.
Amazing.
You know, one of those like just silly shows
Yeah.
about like lifestyle. And Joan, for sure, workaholic. I'm sure you know that if you were
Yeah.
a fan, you
Tell
saw
me
the
everything.
documentary.
Yes.
I mean, her schedule, we would get her schedule and it would be like 7 a.m. Joan leaves from Newark because she did QVC at 6 a.m. What?
I have a
Flies to, you have it?
I have a picture in the Sherry Shepherd dressing room. There's a
Yeah.
Joan Rivers dressing room, and they have 3 of her calendar pages framed.
Yes.
Wow.
And
That's how intense it was. And flew commercial. What?
Wow.
So she would fly from Newark
Jeez.
to Vegas. And then the crew would fly into Vegas because she was performing that night in Vegas.
Wow.
So she would do QVC with all her necklaces at 6 a.m. in Newark.
Wow.
And then go straight to the airport and fly to Vegas, shoot with us, and then perform that night
Wow.
And kill.
and kill.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we would either shoot again or she'd get on an airplane and fly to wherever to do another thing. You know what I mean? And then we'd meet her in Florida. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Amazing.
It was wild.
Well, the show was about people who have curious ways of becoming bazillionaires.
Yeah.
Like the Duck Dynasty duck call people or just whatever.
How
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And so was part of her wealth due to like her own line of clothes and jewelry and stuff?
Yeah.
The QVC money was really good money. I remember her talking about it. She's like, thank God for QVC.
And did she know how funny you were?
So we
Yeah,
had
what
an
was that
interesting.
like?
So this is an interesting story. So when I think of Joan, I think of like, wow, I wrote for Joan Rivers. Oh my God! And then at the same, like right in the same moment, I go, fucking Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
She was me.
Yes.
Of course.
Of course she was.
Yeah, I had a very tiny second with her
What?
on the red carpet with Jack Black.
Osborne?
Yeah.
Oh, Black.
No,
Okay.
we haven't talked about
I'm
this.
sorry. No, we didn't because you love her so much. I didn't think
You
I could.
can. I can take it.
I've never been on a red carpet thing before, and I had Monique Lullier gown on, but I was so nervous about meeting her, I forgot what I was wearing, and she said, "Okay, what are you wearing?" And I said, "Oh well, it's not mine. I borrowed it. Everything's borrowed. What are you wearing?"
Oh yeah.
And I said, She goes, "I'm not going to look at your tag." And then I just
That's
kept
actually
walking.
a funny bit to
Yeah.
do.
I know.
I don't know.
Sure,
Can you
like-
check what size this is?
I know she was busy. She had bigger stars to fry, and I was just wandering through because I was with Jack.
Yeah.
and so
But she must have known you from the comedy world.
no, I don't think so.
No?
No. Mm-mm. Well, this was like 2005, 2006. I don't know.
Well, I knew
I was
who you
around.
were
I
in
know, Laura
2005.
Kightlinger. You were already Laura Kightlinger.
Kightlinger.
Thank you. But anyway, I keep interrupting, but I wanted to hear why you thought she was so mean. What did she say to you? I didn't mean it.
Well, it's a long story. Do you
Go-
want to jump
yes.
yours in?
No. I
Okay.
wanna hear.
It's not that long. So it was a show where we go into people's homes.
Yeah.
We walk into their 8-car garage. We walk into their mega mansion. One guy that owns Treasure Island in Vegas, we walked onto his 767. Like, so, we just, yeah, he gutted
Crazy.
the whole thing and he made it like a beautiful, it had like bedrooms and jacuzzis and saunas and it was incredible. Okay.
Wow.
So we would go ahead of time. There was another writer and myself. There's only 2 of us.
Amazing.
We get there and we start looking around. Okay, I can write a joke about this. Okay, I'll make fun of that door. Okay, let me tell, she'll ask about this painting. And you just write jokes.
Oh, wow, that's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Every single week, the other writer got fired.
Oh.
Not you.
Not me. But I always thought it was me.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this is the week it's my turn.
Oh my God. That's so much stress.
Every week. The
Wow.
other, like I would show up, it's Monday again, and we are in wherever,
Oh,
you know.
that's so scary.
And we were like in Texas or wherever, and there's a new guy, and I'm like, oh hey, I'm Kira, and he's like, I'm Steve. Good luck, Steve. And
Don't
the
get
next
comfortable.
week, Steve was gone. And I'd fly to Georgia and I'd arrive. I'm like, where's the other writer? I don't even know what this name is. And they're like, oh, Dave. Every week.
Wow.
And so there was a feeling of like, first of all, uneasiness constantly, as you
Yeah,
can imagine.
sure. Yeah.
Second, I was pregnant
Oh,
with
no.
my first kid.
Oh.
I
That's
didn't
why you
wanna-
didn't get fired.
What? Nobody knew. It was the first trimester. I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I didn't want to. I'm very superstitious, right? So, but I wanted to vomit all the time. So every week, Joan had a different way that she wanted the jokes pitched to her. You know, one day she's like, whispered in my ear. You know, I'm like, okay, while you're shooting, yeah, they'll cut around.
Oh, how
The other
great.
day it was like, hold up a cue card, you know.
Oh my God.
And then the other day it was like, print her out the joke. So it was very like, what is she going to want now? One day, I'm on my hands and knees. I have a black Sharpie in my hands. I'm writing. Today is the day she wants cue cards. And the Sharpie smell,
Oh my God.
what makes me want to vomit. And I just hear like, you know, her clicking of her shoes on like this, you know, marble floor in this gorgeous house we're in. And she walks over and she kicks the cue card and she goes, right bigger.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
And I almost lost it.
Absolutely.
I held it together.
Wow.
But I was very hormonal.
Yeah.
And I just was like, you know what? Maybe I get fired this week. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. And then it wasn't again. And I just kept hanging on.
But
So-
you miscarried, and I don't know if that was worth it.
Right?
I don't know if working
I
with
was like,
Joan
right
Rivers
bigger, so you
is
just
worth-
wait, fuck you, bigger print. Is that what you
That's
do?
hilarious.
Like,
Oh
go
my
bigger.
God.
No, we were shooting in LA the following week. And
Is there any kind of moment where you're like, okay, because she is like legend, right? Does
Legend.
that play any part where you're like, I shouldn't say anything?
100%.
Like star power, whatever that is.
But one day I did.
Oh, good.
We're shooting in LA.
I want women to fight
Flora's
back.
out.
Goddamn
Flora's
it.
out for
Good.
blood.
Well,
I
at
love
this point, I've assumed I'm next. I just assumed
yeah.
I'm next anyway. And I'm very hormonal and I can't talk about it to anybody. And I don't want anyone to be like, oh, we'll treat you different. Like, as a
Yeah.
female writer, you don't want to stand
Yeah.
out because then they're like, don't hire chicks because they get knocked up.
Yeah.
Right. But we were shooting, you know, the guy that invented bedhead hair products?
Yeah.
Okay. His
Oh.
beautiful house up overlooking, you know, up somewhere like overlooking Hollywood. Okay. Above Sunset. Okay. So it's gorgeous. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And she got angry about a joke that I pitched. And I go, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have said this, but I said, okay, just don't say it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she didn't like that I said that to her. And I was like, she's like, well, you got to write something better. And I go, I get it. I will. I'm going to go right now. Let me think of something right now. But in the meantime, let's move on.
Yeah.
But she got mad that I was like kind of directing. I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to get out of this situation. I admit maybe I didn't do it correctly. And she got a little bit more angry. And I said, I don't see what the big deal is right now.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, it is a big deal. And I said, no, Joan.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. And I turned around and I left.
Yeah.
Now,
That's so intense.
I know the EP. That's why I was hired. I know the EP. He knows me. He's, you know, very close with Joan. And I looked at him and I go, I mouthed, I'm sorry. But he was like, okay.
Yeah.
After that, she was my best friend.
Exactly. Exactly.
My best friend. And I had to leave early because I told them when shooting started, guys, I have some road gigs. I cannot move. I'm just letting you know. So when she found out I was leaving early, she was like, what? I'm so upset. No, don't leave early. I stayed for the entire season. And like our very last shoot was somewhere in Florida. A lot of millionaires who got rich selling like doggy pads moved to Florida, just to let you know. So we're in Florida again for like the third time. And she and I are hugging and she's like, I'm going to miss you and good luck to you. And best friends.
Is it because
Damn.
she realized she overstepped?
I don't think
Or because you stood up to her?
Maybe I stood up to her. Maybe I have no idea what shifted. I never wanted to ask her, but
think-
something shifted.
It sounded like that you stood up to her. That's like in a movie. That's like a dream. Like I like if somebody says, "I want your opinion. What's wrong with this company or this?" And then you say, "Well, this sucks. This is and you need to do this and it." And then they go, "You know what? You're right." Like that sort of thing. That's
It
that
never
kind of
happens in
example.
real life.
I know. So
And
that's so
happened.
amazing. Yeah.
It happened. And then we were driving in the van together, or whenever we were traveling, or we're driving to the airport, and I'm cracking jokes. You know, like that moment in the van where you have a superstar and you can say something and then they laugh and
That's
then
wild.
And then she would laugh huge. And then she used one of my jokes in her shows, which I didn't care. I know.
See, this is
In her stand-up.
People think I'm like, I do my set and I leave because I don't trust a single thing I say to one other comedian ever.
It wasn't my personal joke. I want to make sure.
Yeah.
No, it was a joke I wrote for the
show. What joke was it?
Nice.
I can't remember.
I
it was
wanna
so
know.
long ago. and
Yeah.
I had baby
So
brain.
You were like
But-
watching her show and you were like, that's my joke.
Well, we were shooting in Vegas and I wrote all these jokes. I would write 100 jokes for like one house that like had a weird wallpaper. But what am I supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So I'd give her all these different, and then she's like, "This is so funny. I'm going to use it tonight." And I go, "Okay, I'm not going to argue. I don't care."
That's amazing.
But she did. She used it on stage and it killed.
That's
oh,
such a
that's
compliment.
great. Yeah.
So that's why it's a long story, because it is kind of, there's nuance in my relationship with Joan, and I wish that she was still around. So that I would be able to hopefully continue that.
I had a moment like that a long time ago when I first started doing stand-up in Boston. I had this joke about, well, I heard in New York that people are being killed for their coats, and I don't think that's right. I think if you're going to kill someone for their coat, you should eat them too. And Bill Hicks came up to me and said, that's a good joke. And I was like, okay, I can die tomorrow. That's all. I care. And it's really not that good of a joke, but
It
I mean,
is,
just that
though.
somebody noticed,
Well,
it really means something.
It
but
is
also
because
Bill
it's,
Hicks.
it's so, it's a unique, you have a unique voice when you do your jokes. No one can copy that. You know what I mean? It makes sense coming from you. And that's probably also where that compliment stemmed from, of like, he's also saying you have a unique voice and you're doing something different than not everybody's doing.
I want you to read me a bedtime story.
I know, right?
I think you're a lot more comforting, well, definitely than your mother, but than most people. You have a really sweet, I mean, I know like you're rough and tough, but you have a super sweet side to you too. Like you're a big-hearted person.
Do you think a lot of comics would be good psychiatrists or therapists or like...
You definitely. 100%.
No, you don't think?
I think you're so funny that it would be like a welcome presence to be able to help someone and be funny. Like in a one-on-one situation.
But don't you think we're doing that on stage? We're helping people see the world like, hey, my relationship with my dad sucked. What about yours? And the audience can, and we're kind of helping them see like, oh yeah, that's true. Old men are curmudgeon-y and they're cranky. And why does that happen? Oh, that's weird. I think we would make good therapists.
Well, I feel like I'm helping myself mostly on stage by just having somebody to talk to.
That's why I laughed. I was like, if comics can make a good therapist, I was like, well, if they can get past the narcissism, maybe.
That is true.
Because I do feel the same way. There was one time I did a show in Dallas where I'm from, and like my whole family came and all my sister's friends and all this bullshit. But it was my dad's like college roommate from the 60s who's super gay. He's been in like 200 live theater productions, which is hard to do,
That's
right?
very
Incredible.
hard.
It actually takes years. Anyway, so
But he's made dozens of dollars.
He's bought a few dinner jackets. He was at the show, right? And he's just this old school gay. And I'm just up there faggot the whole time. And like, that was the only time for him. He was like, I haven't laughed this hard in like years and all this stuff. And it was just like this weird, like singular moment of pride. I was like, cool. Yeah. Like Uncle Bean had a breakthrough kind of thing. Do you know? So I do think it does happen.
Of course.
But like the same thing happens to me if I'm like tripping at a Bjork concert. Which is still an old person thing to do. Young people are not at Bjork concerts.
Well,
Did you know that?
but do you see why I thought you were 23 and a half?
Because I'm immature?
No.
My cowlick?
You look like a kid is why.
Because
Oh.
you for sure do.
That's because I wore a hoodie and pajamas.
Because you came in a diaper.
I guess.
And you're not that kind of old diapery.
Because
wearing
Laura has
for-
me in the front carrying baby papoose as we record.
I wish I could.
Can we?
I wanted to ask about high school in San Francisco.
Oh, yes.
That's a crazy place to grow up.
One of the best places.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to get political
Yeah.
on this podcast, but
You hate Jews?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. I don't
As
blame
a
you.
Jew, I can. Do you see the
Me
difference?
too. I'm half, or am I not really? And my dad was full. My dad was a full Jew. He,
Yeah.
Can I say full blown Jew?
Full blown, yes.
My mom's not though. My mom is
mean-
German and Swedish and a bunch of other shit. Pekingese.
He's-
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
So I'm not a Jew.
No. Well, no, you are. Whatever you want
Half.
to choose. You can identify any way
half.
you
It's
want.
what that Cher
nowadays.
song was all about.
Yeah, I'm the bottom half, I think.
See, that's what
Yeah.
I say. People just think I'm Jewish because my bush is so big.
How dare you? In this climate.
And this political
You can
climate.
be LGBT Jew.
Okay, I
Any
like
way
that.
you want to identify.
Okay.
But my point is that San Francisco now is so different from when I grew up. It's heartbreaking when I go back to visit. I was just up a few weeks ago and it's unrecognizable. So I want people to understand when I say San Francisco, I mean late 70s, 80s, 90s, and then I went to college. So I went to School of the Arts. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So you had fun. Was it like Fame?
It was like
the
Fame.
older, not
The
older,
old
but
Fame, the new original Fame.
yeah. The kids were dancing in the halls.
We danced at our lockers.
Really?
That was extra credit.
I want that to be true. Well, the whole Joan Rivers thing, I think you're kind of magical now.
It is very
I
movie
got,
star.
Like, that, yeah.
No, it was an amazing place to grow up. My street, again, a lot of kids, a lot of families, but there was a school bus stop that we would walk to.
Yeah.
To take us to school. And we only did that on rainy days, by the way. We had to walk like a mile by ourselves. Now my kids, I have like a radar up their asses. I can
Like,
track
would you-
them on my phone.
Would you let your kids take the same route, walk it like today?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So many. First of all the streets are on hills and turns, and you can't see the car coming around there. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we would stand waiting for the school bus, and then the Japanese mother on the street would come out and be like, "You kids look hungry," and she'd feed us some little Japanese treat.
Yes.
And then my Russian mom didn't do shit. But anyways, there'd be another. But the whatever mom, all these different. The Vietnamese mom was like, "Here, everyone, have a little thing," and we would be fed all these like different foods from around the world. Where else do you get that? I mean, yes, there are cities, there are multicultural and cosmopolitan and metropolitan, all that, but San Francisco was just so unique. And my husband still doesn't understand that I grew up in the city because he thinks where the cable cars go is the city.
Yeah.
And that I'm in some sort of, no, there are homes. You just
Yeah.
drive a little bit, go through Golden Gate Park.
Yep.
There's a whole, it looks like suburbia. It's not. It's not.
It's like over Presidio-ish or like south of that.
Do you have sisters and
No.
brothers that you
Not
went to
anywhere near that.
further way
Yeah.
deep. Not as cool. Not as cool. My brother passed away
Oh, I'm sorry.
at 38
No.
from a heart attack.
What?
I know.
That's
it's
terrifying.
bananas. So it's just me.
When
Which
was
would
that?
also
Sorry, I don't mean to-
that was okay. So that was like 20 years ago.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
Because then it's obviously, I don't, not to get into it, but
No,
you're
we can
like,
get
if
into
that's a genetic thing, or you're like,
Well, thankfully we have different dads.
Really?
So I feel good.
I mean, right?
Wait a second.
we do. Yes.
Oh my
of course.
God. Okay.
Everything I'm saying is
It's
real.
true. Right, it's true.
I don't know anything about my dad had a heart attack at 58, so I don't know anything about anyone in his family.
You're like, is your half Jewish heart that part?
Yeah. Like, so am I gonna like whatever? I think I've already had my aneurysm, so I'm probably.
But like Margaret Cho, who I work with, but she talks about growing up in
Well,
San
where
Francisco.
she grew up,
and
I
how-
mean, it was wild.
Why?
Why? Because that part of town was like, it was just like happening. It was like there was nightlife where she grew up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know where specifically, but I know where her parents' store was.
Right.
On
right.
Polk.
Yes.
And I know that area very well.
Yeah.
And, and those are the kind of friends I had where it's like my Asian friends' parents owned a burrito shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they
yeah.
were like-
Absolutely.
and they made the best burritos. But like they came to this country and they were like, we're opening a business immediately now. Like we're going to night school to learn English and we're opening up our own business now.
Last Christmas, we were in San Francisco. Don't ask me where, because I don't. Maybe Richmond. Is Richmond? Is that
The
a place?
Richmond,
Okay,
yes.
and we were there's a place nearby called Genki, and what they sell crepes. It's a crepe full of ice cream.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then they chop up like a slice of cheesecake into these little bricks, and they
gonna
slam that on
slap
top.
you. I will
I know
slap
you're
you
no
across
sugar,
the face.
but then
That
on top of it,
sounds
they
like
just put
heaven.
like basic whipped cream just on top. But they also sell toys. It's like this weird hodgepodge, weird store.
That sounds incredible.
But
though.
it is like, that's one of the, it's like so delicious, but like
Yeah.
you're comatose at the end of it.
Well, the city was honestly magical. When we were kids, there were weird parts and don't go there and but no one was taking a dump like on your front stoop. That just our homeless back
you had
in
to
the
do that
70s
yourself,
and 80s.
right?
Yeah, exactly. If you wanted.
This is a general question, and maybe just because I live in Los Angeles, but I was just in New York. Is there more fecal matter on the streets than there used to be, or is it me?
I remember walking around when I was in Manhattan in the 90s when I really started doing stand-up regularly, and I lived on 17th Street. I don't remember seeing anything but bird shit.
I'm like, is it people have more dogs? Is it like there's people walking?
No, those are their bowels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right? It's like, not to be super gross, but because I was lucky enough to go to San Francisco at least in the 90s and see that it was a beautiful city.
Yeah.
And like, it had its like, the homeless population was prevalent, but it was like different.
It was different. Like these were people that were like, look, I saw some shit in Vietnam. I don't want to talk about it. So I'm just going to sleep on this bench. All right?
Yeah.
It was very much like that.
It was earned.
It was really earned.
It was,
I deserve to take a shit right here, or wherever I want.
Not even though. It was very much like that.
And now it's like truly just, I moved here because my parents in Sacramento wouldn't let me do fentanyl. So now Macy's is letting me do it in their vestibule. And that's,
Oh, damn.
It's very true though, because that city is so stunning, right? On all kinds of levels. So to see it lose its like spirit or whatever.
Well, you remember it in the 90s for comedy.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. It was huge.
Yeah, Cobb's and that.
Cobb's and the Punchline, and what else do we have?
There was a beautiful theater, and I hate the name of it. It was called Bimbo's.
And
I did a special there once, and then
Holy City Zoo.
Yeah.
I mean, and just
Holy City Zoo. That was like the place everybody talked about.
When I was a kid, it was where Robin Williams would just go, get Coke in the parking lot, and then perform on stage in like a lather, in a foamy lather, like he was just. So I, as a kid, would sneak into comedy clubs when I was about 14.
Amazing.
Like, why?
Oh, I knew when I was 5.
You knew.
So our family friends, some fellow Soviets, taught Robin Williams how to speak Russian for Moscow on the Hudson.
Wow.
So I understood who he was, and I knew, and then I was like, hold on, that's Mork from Ork.
Yeah.
And my parents were like, yes, this is the Mork. And I said, but that's what I want to be. I want to sit on a couch using my head. Instead of my butt, because that was what I thought as a 5-year-old. Right? I thought that was genius.
Yeah, because Mork was always on his head.
He was sitting on his head. He was sitting on his head. And so I knew at 5, and I told my parents at 5, I said, I want to do what Mork from Ork does. And they said, you shut up and sit down. And we weren't even citizens yet. So honestly, until I was 8 or 9 when we became citizens, they were on edge. They were on edge. Like, you don't get in trouble. Government send us back. And so I couldn't mess up in school. Like, they were constantly like looking over their shoulders. And then we became citizens. They loosened up a little bit. You know what I mean? And so they were like, okay, everything's okay now. America. And so we had to like really watch our P's and Q's when I was a kid.
Oh, sure.
And so when I said stuff like that, they were like, you don't even understand. We could leave tomorrow. And then we'd go back to the Soviet Union and just be lucky if you're not pregnant at 17. And so I knew as a kid, I cut school one day with my friend Rachel Dan, and we went and bought tickets for My Little Pony. It came out, and because we were 12.
Sure.
And then made a left and instead went and saw Delirious.
Like
Eddie
on
Murphy,
purpose, or we're
on
like, what
purpose.
if we just, we
couldn't buy ticks. They were rated. It was rated R.
The My Little Pony was the red herring.
I mean, it was perfectly timed.
Oh, that was just, it was one of those moments.
Yeah.
You're like,
it was
what if
like,
we just
okay, we can buy a G movie ticket. And then we went down the wrong way and went and saw Eddie Murphy.
How cool.
And I told Rachel, I go, do you want to come with me? I'm going to cut school today. And this movie just came out and he's like a huge stand-up comic and I want to be a stand-up comic. And Rachel, you didn't have to ask her twice to cut school.
Yeah.
Absolutely did not.
That's a good friend
have
to
to
have.
ask her. She's like, yeah, I don't want to be here. So we left and we went to go see this movie. And the whole time I'm watching it, she's dying. She's laughing. I'm laughing too, but I was already a comic. I was watching it like the way comics watch comedy,
Amazing.
where I was like, oh, I see what you did there. Oh, God, that was smart. And it was racist and homophobic and politically incorrect. And he'd be canceled if he did that now. But at the time, we all just laughed. We loved it. And then I went and saw it over and over and over again.
Wow.
Then Blockbuster had Raw. And I would take whatever. It's a happy, happy Christmas movie. Take that and put Raw inside and hope that they didn't, because sometimes they didn't open.
So people have to really fast. I don't know if anyone young enough to remember, is that you would have the box,
the VHS cover
on a shelf that you would go to the front and like turn into Rent, and you would switch the tape.
So even before that, Blockbuster trusted people
Enough.
and the tape was inside.
Okay, yeah.
The tape was...
You're the reason they changed the rules.
I might have been. The tape was inside. Maybe it was not a Blockbuster yet. That store turned into a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
It might have been a mom and pop shop
A
when I
Video
went.
Max
A
is
video,
what we called
it
it.
was just like, I forget the name now. But yeah, so I would switch them out and I would take Raw home. But it was inside of like, Mary Poppins.
Sure.
It's amazing.
Cover. And so then that's how, I just knew. I just knew so early on. So I would sneak into comedy clubs.
I felt the same way when I saw, back to her again, but when I saw Joan Rivers live for the first time. That was the first time I was like, I think I want to do stand-up, because it was the same thing where everybody else was losing their minds, and I was too, but it just for very different reason. I was like, you just analyze and dissect, and
you're watching it thinking, this is a real career.
It's a job.
This can be real.
It's a total job.
Yeah.
But Delirious is the one, I think, where he walks out and he's in the red, or is that Raw?
The velvet, or not?
the
I mean,
leather,
the red leather.
The leather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's Raw.
I forget. One of them is the first line where he walks out and he makes a faggot joke. I forget which one.
Oh, he made a lot.
But he's like, I don't want no faggot looking at my ass. I think that's the line.
Yes.
And then the place goes crazy.
Crazy.
But he's had to apologize like a couple generations for that. Do you know what I mean? Which is so annoying, because like the latest group of young people are like, oh, Eddie Murphy said faggot, and the special in the 80s. It's like, yeah, but he addressed it in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's already been...
Now, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm curious.
Comedy doesn't ever age well, depending. Faggot is a derogatory word that gay men are murdered to. It's also an old word. I say it and I sound old, and I also use it a lot. As a punchline from a straight guy, it's offensive for just that reason. It's usually straight guys that have called us faggots for not helpful reasons. But it's more just when it comes from a straight dude. You're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
100% it matters what the intent is. I personally get no joy out of saying any words that I know. And I know other comics would battle me on this, but if someone is going to be sad in a comedy show, what is the point of me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not why I'm here. Now, am I going to always please everybody? Absolutely not.
Right.
But that's because maybe I've written a joke that you don't find funny, or you're like, well, I was beaten as a kid, so don't joke about hitting kids, or that I can't help. But if I know, like, I've never desired to use anything.
To offend.
Any of those
offend,
buzzwords.
you know what I mean? I like to say the word slutty whore once in a while, but I'm speaking from experience. It's different.
Yeah.
No, but I understand. Like, I don't have any desire to say that, but I am really like curious. Like, do we make Eddie Murphy apologize? Do we make?
He has.
Yeah.
And
but like, do we use it as an example? Like, do we go down the line and say, okay, Andrew Dice Clay, you're next? And do we go down and make every single person?
But people now should be more aware, at least. I mean, like, I guess it was Kevin Hart said something that was like,
like, oh, I don't want to have a gay son.
Yeah. And I think
and he got canceled for that. Like, he couldn't host.
Yeah. And then there was.
That's right.
He couldn't host the Oscars, right?
No, they took it away from him.
Okay. This is a great example. Should you get that taken away from you, that job, that big, huge, opportunity because 7 years ago you said something. I don't think it's right. I don't agree with him, but I also feel like, God, have we always said the right thing all the time?
Well, I just think probably most of the writers for the Oscars are a bunch of gay guys. So
Yeah,
they probably are like,
sure.
yeah,
The
we're not
producers
going
too.
to write jokes for this. Like,
Yeah.
But it's also, I agree. It's like if everything in my parents' lifetime, if everything they said was documented somewhere, I'm sure I'd be like, oh my God, my mom is canceled?
Right.
One time I was at a show, this was in Texas, and like I bombed, but whatever. But it's one of those where you have a 15-minute set and you're bombing for 14 and a half minutes, right? And the whole time you're like, it's just going to be this. And it was just, and when I finished, I just went and sat at the back and it was awkward. And then the guy after that, he spent the first 5-ish minutes of his set addressing my set and how gay I was, the whole thing. And I was so new, I didn't know what to do. So I just sat there and took it. But he ended his set with, I know I'm a bad father if my daughter grows up to suck dick for money and my son grows up to suck dick. And then when he said that, everybody in the bar turned around and just looked at me.
What?
It was a wild experience because I knew what he was doing.
Where were you? Where were you?
In Austin, Texas, but just outside of the city where I was like, oh, I should have seen that coming.
But his son sucked dick for money too?
Suck dick at all. Period. Period.
I was trying to be like, if it's for money,
then I mean,
you're making from fiscal responsible choices.
Can't we
If it's
ever
for money,
get equal
put me-
pay for?
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know. That's first of all horrible.
But it's one of those things when you're a new comic, you don't know any rules, or I didn't have a sense of authority, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
my own personal authority.
Yeah.
But wait, okay, so when you were 14 and you sneaked into a comedy club,
Yeah.
who did you go see?
Oh my God. Liz.
Winstead?
Yes.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Are you
I
serious?
love Liz.
Yes.
That's
And
great.
I didn't even put it together until years and years later in the
Yeah.
Daily Show. And I go, why does that name sound familiar?
Yes.
Rich Scheidner.
Yep.
He was at Cobb's.
Sure.
I was laughing so hard at his set. He stopped his set to address. He's like, are you okay?
Oh, that's so great.
I was dying. And he came and he talked to me. At that point, I was 15.
Wow.
And I go, now Rich and I are pals. And I go, how disgusting. You talk to a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
But I told him I wanted to be a comic and he was super supportive. And Rachel Dan again was there with me. And that one we didn't sneak into. That one my mom lied and said we were all 18. And she took us there. Because
That's so
one great
nice.
thing
Cool.
about Soviets is that they don't care about rules. You know
I
what
thought
I mean?
you were going
Like,
to say they don't age well.
no, but they were like, she's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I go, I want to take all my friends to Cobb's. And you're supposed to be 18 at the time. And the girl at the box office was like, are you all 18? My mom was like, all of them my children. All of them 18. And then dropped us off and she left. My mom left.
that's
My
so
mom
funny.
left.
Yes.
Here, what was your worst set ever?
I have too many.
I
I have too many.
Was your
I've
first
only
set amazing? That's usually the
No.
story. Oh.
No, it was horrible.
Was it up in SF or?
No, it was down here. When I started, I thought you had to start in either Los Angeles or New York. I had no idea.
That's
there
scary.
there were hardly any books out.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a couple of books. And I assumed that that's what you did. You started in LA or New York.
Yeah.
I couldn't in San Francisco because there was a kid I grew up with who started stand up at 16 when
wow.
I wanted to do it.
Sure.
And now he was in the paper and he was getting all the accolades. And he was like, the youngest San Francisco comic. I don't know why I made it sound like we're in the 40s, but you know what I mean? And so if I would have done that, I would look like copycat. So I was like, God damn it. All right, now I have to wait. But I was in LA. I was in the Valley, very sweet little place called The Kindness of Strangers. That was the
What?
name of the cafe. Can you believe that?
gotcha.
Wow.
The Kindness of Strangers. That was the name. And they had a little open mic. And I signed up and I went up and it was horrible.
Wow.
Absolutely horrible. But then again, that's most open mics are these people that had their first set and, the crowd went wild and I was in Madison Square Garden for my first set. I mean, like these stories are insane to me. It was 5 other open mic comics.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they should have like prepped the crowd a little.
Never.
I think, but I mean, I remember having a really good first set because it was, I think his name was John McDonald in Boston, because he was so sweet. He got everybody like, look, this is this person's first time up. The people you're seeing tonight, they've never done this before. They've got more guts than you or anybody. So, be nice and be supportive.
We didn't have that. No.
But there's the problem of, this is more in the alt comedy scene, is when you're playing like a cafe and stuff where it's like some people are there working or on a date or doing something.
Yeah.
Because there'll be times when I'm on stage and you realize that the crowd has been ambushed, right? They're like, they didn't know stand-up comedy was happening, nor want to forfeit their space in the venue.
Right.
Which to me is also a little insane. If I was up against a comedy show, I would leave,
Have either of you ever opened for a band?
Yes.
Do you don't like it?
No, I don't think I ever have. I was just curious.
Who was the band?
They were a one-hit wonder in the 90s. And I can't remember them now.
Toad the Wet Sprocket.
I wish. They would have been great. And I had to open and no one was there to see me, obviously. And people are still walking in. And it was at a venue like a Bimbo's, like just a big concert hall type of place.
Wow.
It was pure hell. But I told them, I said, I don't want to be here either.
You told the crowd that?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I said, you don't want me here? I don't want me here.
Yeah. Yes.
This booker, I try to talk them out of it. So I was on their side.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's smart.
I started booing myself.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I was
that's
in
a
between
good idea.
while the bands were changing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
But I tried to literally tried to explain to the person who was running the show at an outdoor venue. I was like, this isn't really probably going to work, right? But I didn't know how to do it. There was probably a better way to approach it, but I sucked from the jump. Nobody was. There was just like emptiness and a lot of movement. Then the lead singer of the band who just finished walks full on stage. I'm using the same microphone she was using. She left her phone that someone had spilled a drink on, right? So she picks up her cell phone and right next to me, I'm on the mic. She's right next to me in front of me. She goes, "You spilled a beer on my phone." And starts
my
I was
God.
like, "No, I didn't." And I know it doesn't look like I'm performing, but I am actually performing right now. So then there's
Horrible.
You thought you were a roadie?
it's just anybody. She has no clue. And then the person running the show comes out dead center and starts doing the like across the neck,
Oh my God.
telling me to like finish. I think it was 4
Horrible.
minutes in. It was awful. Well, you were such a fan and had such focus on wanting to be a comic. When your first set didn't go well, were you like, wait a second, I thought I knew what I was doing? Or
I mean, I knew I had to get back up on stage and it didn't go well again.
Sure.
Right?
And then I talked to some comics and they were like, you just have to keep getting up. So I just kept getting up and it was awful.
Yeah. How long
For
was it
years.
before you were like...
Years.
It takes,
Really?
yeah, it does take a long
Don't you think
time.
that's so psychotic that we like
Yes.
you suck and suck and suck, and it's awful. The only way to feel better about it is to go back. But then when you suck again, you're like, I keep making horrible.
We're
life choices.
masochists.
Yeah.
We're narcissists that are masochists.
Yeah.
Okay, here's how I describe it to new comics, because new comics will ask me this a lot. I'm sure you've both gotten this. Like, well, what's the advice? I want to start comedy. Okay, have you ever like thrown clay on one of those clay things? What are those called? Those
God,
tables, those
fucking
clay
I
tables.
do not know. Yeah,
Yeah.
the wheel.
Yeah, the wheel. Thank you.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is a wheel. It's called throwing clay. You throw.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so you're pushing on the wheel on the pedal, and it's going really fast. You're like, "Ooh, I'm making a vase."
Yeah.
And then you do one wrong move, and it just goes.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a baby has come out of a vagina. Like it's all
yes.
torn up and
Yeah.
just disgusting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what do? They pack it all again. They throw some water. They start slowly smoothing it out.
Yeah.
It takes so long to learn how to make a bowl.
Yeah.
A bowl?
Yeah.
It seems like the easiest thing in the world.
Right.
And then you do something and it's like spins out of control and flies out. So that's kind of what it felt like for me.
Yeah.
Where I was like, okay, like one joke worked.
Right.
5 didn't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just do this one joke. My first joke. You want to hear my first joke
Yes.
ever?
Yeah.
I feel like other people have done this, but whatever. I was new. So I just came back from the doctor and it's official. I'm eating for 2. I have a tapeworm.
That's great.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's a great joke.
Really
And then I
good.
said, I don't know who the father is. And then I said, that's why I'm going to go to the doctor and get rid of it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yay.
Controversial.
That's good. That's awesome.
But that, that was maybe one that got a giggle.
Sure, no, that's smart.
You guys are being kind right now.
No, that's really good.
But then there were 10 that was just silence.
Yeah.
I feel like throwing clay also sounds like a fake sitcom. Like, right? Like the one you're writing for, it sounds like next time on Throwing Clay.
Yeah,
Or a 90s band. That's a good
Yeah.
name
Oh,
for
that's
it.
it.
Throwing Clay. So if I don't do 3 shows a night, I feel like a loser.
What?
Failure.
Then I'm more than a loser.
No, you're
Because
not.
if I do a show a week, I think, wow, I'm really getting something done.
I'm trying to get back in that.
No, you're not. You don't need it.
Let's
You
go
are
with
who
us.
you
Laura,
are.
No,
You're
why don't we?
Laura Kightlinger.
Please, I want to go with you guys.
are
I
Laura
need to.
Kightlinger.
I need the camaraderie.
I
and
have two sh-
friendship.
I have two
to
shows-
start doing stand up with you kids. You've got two
Shows tonight.
Okay.
But
Nice.
that's the first time it's been that in a minute. I'm out of
Oh,
town
that's
a
good.
lot. But,
You're constantly working.
but
on the
yeah,
road.
but not in town. It's different. I know what you mean. It's like if I'm not.
Well, I'm on the road with Tom Papa, so I'll
Which is
feature for
also
him.
amazing.
That's
Yeah.
great. Wait, but let's plug.
I'm looking up something relevant to this.
I wanna
promise.
plug
I'm
what
not
Kira's
just
up to.
Rudely on my phone.
The delightful Kira Soltanovich will be performing. No, Kira, will you please tell us what's going on, where we can listen to you, or where our listeners can see you live?
If they go to Kira Comedy, Instagram, and that's also my website and Twitter, but Instagram is usually where I will throw up some shows, and then I'm on Breaking Bread with Tom Papa.
Oh, fantastic!
Yay! So that's the podcast we do, and it's also a video podcast, so you can watch it, you can listen to it, and that's called Breaking Bread. And then I'm in town, but then I'll go on the road with Tom, then do my own gigs. It's weird because it's like, you want to headline your own gigs because you're a headliner, and then you want to pay your mortgage, so you go with Tom Papa, and you go with Tom Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a great opening for people. So fun.
It's
That's
fun,
great.
and we're pals, so
He's awesome.
we have fun. And I drag him to Russian banyas, and I beat him with sticks inside of a
fantastic.
Russian spa, and I make him wear the wool hat, and so he's a good sport.
Amazing!
Did you ever go on Sunset to Russian Books? Do you remember that store?
Of course,
I loved Russian Books.
of course,
They've moved. I think they.
Well, yeah,
reopened.
they haven't been there in a very long time.
But I went in there really fast once, and like they didn't believe because I collect like children's books from other countries, so I was legit looking. So the guy was kind of stiff at first, and then I was.
What do you mean at first?
Well, I mean,
his whole life.
but he was not like friendly or warm to me. And then slowly, and then the wife came out from the back, and she started telling me what stuff was when I was asking, and then she yelled at him in Russian, and then he put on a record player and put some music on.
to drown her out.
Yeah, I know. But then they turned the lights on, like the shelf lights, like they turned the store on and everything.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And then as soon as I was like, I purchased and I was leaving, just as I was leaving, he took the record off. Like he stopped the music. And I was like, wow, they really just turned on. But I love
For you, they wanted to give you the full experience.
They dressed it up. I love Russian books.
Yeah, well, I love Russian spas. I try to find them wherever I go. I'll take a Korean spa too.
Where do you go?
I found one in Calgary recently on the road.
Oh, wow.
I texted, Dana Moon. I texted her. We were both going to Calgary, and I go, pack a bathing suit, don't ask questions.
Fantastic.
But she didn't see it in time, and so I had to go by myself. She didn't have a bathing. I would have been fine if she was naked.
I'd
you know
like
what
to
I'm talking about?
I'd like to go to one here.
You want to?
Where do you go? Yeah, will you please?
Well, in LA, I do go to the Russian Banya, but they recently during COVID, they made it like a prescription. No, not a subscription. What is
pharmacy?
it? No, they made it like you have to buy like
membership.
the annual membership,
Oh,
annual pass.
Oh, okay.
Which is lame. It's lame. But it's called voda, which means Russian in water in Russian. Sorry.
Okay.
Voda, vada, whatever you want to say. I go to Korean spas when I'm in LA.
Okay.
And in it's like Caribbean. You can really say it. Vada, voda. But New York, Korean spas.
Okay.
And there's one I go to in Coney Island that is scary Russian gangsters. If you want to almost die, I'll take you to that one.
I really want to go. I've never been to Coney Island.
Oh,
I lived in Manhattan for like 10 years and I didn't.
Have you been to Cafe Paris over in Hollywood?
no.
Go there. There's all these mean Russian people.
Oh,
work
wait,
there.
yes.
Yes, the
I
little
have,
place
of
right on
course.
the highway. Yes,
Yes.
I love them. They're so mean.
I
love
have.
it.
Yeah, no, they're scary people.
There's some old man smoking a cigar at 8 a.m.
Of course.
on the patio.
And that wasn't
I
his
love it.
first.
No.
I am obsessed with sweating. I think I might have texted you this a long time ago. I did a talk show in my sauna.
Oh, wow.
And it was called Let's Get Sweat. And it's basically my mom. I was my mom as the talk show host.
Amazing.
And I would have people come in, all comics, of course, and interview them and then beat them with vieniki, which are these branches.
Wow.
While I'm interviewing them. And it's a real sauna. It's on and we're really sweating. And it's a great detail.
I feel really turned on by that.
Yeah.
I
Also,
might have asked you if you were available. I think you were busy.
Oh.
you feel turned on. I feel ripped off. Like, why didn't you bring those reeds over here and beat
Well,
us
you
with
know,
them? Like,
Come to my
I
house.
also went to the first time I got talked into going to a hot yoga. I walked in and I said, "It smells like shit in here." The smell of sweat. I'm not that good with that.
I
kind of
thought
stuff.
hot yoga meant everybody there was hot.
Ah,
Huge
hilarious.
disappointment.
yeah.
Oh my God. Please tell me you do that on stage. That is hilarious.
Well, this is so much fun. Thanks for
guys.
we
thanks
will
for
go.
being
I
here.
do want to go to a Russian sauna though with you. I want to see what it's
Will
like.
you let me take you?
Yes, please. I would love to go.
I would be honored
Okay, great.
to beat you upside your face.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel like I'm falling in love.
You'll say your last
In
name
front
right
of my
after
husband.
that.
Oh, yeah, you'll say it correctly.
Soltanovich.
Soltanovich.
Yay.
Soltanovich. Let's say it
Look at
together.
that. Soltanovich.
Is that how you like it to be pronounced?
I like when there's a harmony melody. Yeah, I like it.
Soltanovich. Soltanovich.
You call it Volda.
I call it Vada Soltanovich.
Your life is a musical.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks so much.
guys.
Gosh, it was fun.